What's up, YouTube? It's December 26, 2021. I want to wish everyone a belated Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And if you've been following my channel, you're part of the action figure collecting community, then you know I'm primarily a 1/6 scale 12-inch figure collector. At least that's what my channel has been focused on. But like a lot of people, this is probably this is where I got started, and I'm sure there are a lot of you who were first introduced to G.I. Joe in the smaller 1/18 scale, 3 3/4 inch scale, or 3 3/4 inch tall figures originally, and then in the early 2000s with the 25th anniversary in the mid 2000s, they went on to more 4-inch, closer to 4-inch figures. So this is a Lady J from the 25th 25th anniversary collection. It was one of the later figures, better sculpt, better articulation, and so forth. She's probably from about 2008 or 9. And here's a Jungle Strike Humvee from 2004. Then around 2014, when I started collecting a little bit late in the game, 12-inch 1/6 scale action figures. More indicative of an action figure like this one. So once you go from a figure like this with a level of detail, you see there's a functional, it's not just a sculpted knife or pistol on the side. In this case, he's got a knife. They're removable. You got helmets that you can take off, as opposed to sometimes having headgear that's sculpted onto the figure. You can change the uniforms based on the mission, what have you, so you can have the same figure in multiple environments versus needing to get 3 versions of the same character to demonstrate that they're in 3 different environments, which is what you get with figures in this scale. So when you go from this, it's really hard to go back to this. Now, for nostalgic reasons, I kept a few of my smaller action figures. I'm sure I'm not the only collector who has problems with space. I want to be a collector, but I don't want to be a hoarder, and I want to have some organized space, so sometimes bringing in something new means sacrificing or getting rid of something old. But it brings, when you go up to 1/6 scale, it really poses challenges in terms of storage. Take a look at this vehicle, a properly scaled small vehicle for a 1/6 scale 12-inch action figure. Compare that with this Humvee. It's just a whole different world in terms of how much space you have to devote to this hobby. This Christmas, my brother knows that I'm a collector. He's not a collector himself. He knows I'm into G.I. Joe. So he kind of threw a wrench into things, which is a good thing. The thing about me, made a really considerate purchase. He bought me a G.I. Joe classified Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. And what I like about this scale, apparently 1/12 scale with 6-inch action figures are all the new rage. It's been the case for a few years, with Marvel Legends first, I believe, setting the trend, and then followed by your DC characters. And it was just a matter of time that G.I. Joe would reboot in this scale. And I definitely like this scale a lot better than your original 1/18, 3 3/4 inch to 4-inch action figure scale. So here's Beachhead from the smaller scale G.I. Joe. He was one of the last figures inspired by the 25th anniversary line. Eventually it went to about the 30th anniversary from 2007 to maybe 2012, and then they discontinued. And I didn't think that they would be back in retail until, lo and behold, I just realized this year, a few months ago, that they had actually been back at retail for about a year in the form of both G.I. Joe Classifieds and also, or sorry, G.I. Joe Classifieds, which are updates of these figures in original scale, and then I'm sorry, it's G.I. Joe Classics, which are sort of a reissue of G.I. Joe characters in the original smaller scale versus Classified series, which is the new hot thing on the block now with the 1/12 scale. And I actually didn't want to get too involved with another scale. I don't want to, I got enough I'm spending my money on. But with this introduction of this figure, these figures, I think I might, I'm at a crossroads in terms of possibly putting a freeze on all of my 1/6 scale stuff. Maybe even thinning the ranks a little bit to make room for the actual characters I grew up with and just a more functional scale. And to kind of throw another variable into the loop, with I was a Masters of the Universe fan in the 80s as well, and with the new Netflix series Revelations, and also no, there are a couple of series, but mostly the Revelations, and the supposed collector grade, semi-collector grade line of Masterverse. I did put a freeze on my 1/12 or my 12-inch scale figures anyway, just to pick up a few of these. This is actually from a few years ago. This is a Motu Classics, and this is actually a Masterverse figure, one of the newer ones. So this is actually, the Masterverse was supposed to be my sort of my main theme in collecting. And then when my brother got me Snake Eyes and more importantly Storm Shadow, and I just I liked the way the joints were, the articulation, the ability to pose, and then the scale. They weren't so tiny that you really couldn't, you almost need a magnifying glass to appreciate their details. But they weren't so huge like these 12-inch action figures that they just take up too much shelf space. And eventually, if you get a couple of vehicles and about, I don't know, a couple dozen figures, which isn't a huge collection, it's going to take up almost a whole room or a whole half of a room. I just don't have that kind of space to devote to them. So let's just take a look at scales. Here's the big boy, medium-sized guy, and the original smaller figure, which I'm giving up on these guys completely. Hopefully I'll hold myself to this idea. I got, I still want to go with some Masterverse figures. And then, sadly, I didn't want to do this, but I'm really intrigued by the 6-inch classified figures. So I think the focus of my collection moving forward for this foreseeable future will be G.I. Joe Classifieds and Motu Masterverse. I'm going to keep a lot of my favorite 1/6 scale pieces, but I'm going to have to kind of really use some discretion and figure out a way to thin out the ranks as well. You know, just like everything in life, if I had everything I wanted, well, I'd be at least $50,000 richer, a little bit taller, a little bit slimmer, you know, list goes on. Sure, we can all relate to something in terms of not being able to have everything we want. So anyway, with my brother gave me this action figure and the Snake Eyes. Day after Christmas, I actually had to go to Walmart and had to pick up a few necessary items. I probably shouldn't have done it, but I went by the toy aisle. I saw Flint, and he was really the one I wanted. So with what was left, I went ahead and picked him up. Hopefully I won't go too crazy, but yeah, I'm at a crossroads. I'm going to have to put a freeze on 1/6 scale, and for the foreseeable future, focus on these guys, and hopefully stream down my collection. Get rid of what I don't need anymore, and kind of make room for the things I want to move forward with. Sure, you guys probably come across similar dilemmas. Not a bad dilemma to have. These are definitely what we used to call first world problems. Not a bad problem to have, but you know, I got some work ahead of me. What do you guys think? What is the best scale of an action figure? And what do you think the hot scale is now? And do you really have, does the average toy collector have room and time and money to devote to multiple scales, or do you really need to pick one or two and just go with them? Alright, those are the questions I'm going to leave you with. Those are the questions that I spend my spare time wrestling with. You know, they're worse things, worse problems to have, I guess. Alright, happy collecting, guys. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. We'll catch you next time.